Hey there, everyone. Michael here. Ben could not join me today, unfortunately. We decided to hold off on the Roger Allers episode. Unfortunately, due to the winter storm, Ben went through some things that he could not do a podcast episode this week, which was totally understandable. And so we both agreed the best thing to do was to hold off and let me just run like a very quick, more mini episode, if you will. And for this week, something actually came out that I was really, really surprised by. I was not expecting it, and it turned out to be a really, really cool thing. And that is Wonder Man. Wonder Man is an 8-episode miniseries that tells the story of Simon Williams trying to break into the film industry in LA while hiding the fact that he has superpowers. He forms a friendship with Trevor Slattery as they try to navigate a possible life-changing audition while Trevor is secretly working with the Department of Damage Control to see if they can detain Williams for secretly having superpowers. What I was most surprised by with Wonder Man is everything that involves superpowers is secondary to the main story. Throughout most of the series, Simon's powers are more like roadblocks to him, and they're just another thing he's having to overcome. The real thing that Simon's having to overcome is getting out of his own head and learning to trust himself and find his love of his craft and find the focus in it as an actor. And the challenges he faces trying to break in, they are very, very believable, and he really shows the pain he's going through to try and become this person. The crazy thing is, there's not even really a major action set piece in the show, and I actually think it works because it doesn't do that. Marvel isn't going on their typical content path, but instead they're really choosing to make the story more of a dramedy that's about the reality of following dreams and the possible sacrifices one has to make, and it just happens to take place in the MCU. I feel the best parts of the show is definitely Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Simon Williams and Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery. Individually, they're both very honest, they're both very believable, they give multifaceted performances that shows so much range as these characters, and then together they just have this undeniable chemistry that I think is just absolutely perfect. I think also the direction from the main 4 directors of the series is just top notch. I think each director directs 2 episodes, and they just do some really cool stuff blocking wise to always keep the energy going. And on top of the gorgeous cinematography and editing that happens throughout the show, it really is just high quality stuff. There's even an entire episode 4, that steps away from Simon and Trevor to focus on this character called Doorman. And it's a man just named Damar Davis who became a famous celebrity and known as Doorman, and he has superpowers, and then something horrific happens, and now the industry wants nothing to do with superpowered individuals. That episode really works because Byron Bowers, who plays Davis, is fantastic, and he just shows the rise and fall so beautifully, and it's probably my favorite shot, my favorite cinematography in the whole show, and the black and white is just gorgeous to look at. Now, if I had to give any criticism toward the show, I would just say it's probably in the very last episode. There's a time skip, and I have several questions about how this all works. Like, how did Simon learn to control something that well? And I would have liked to see that a little more, but that's a very minor thing compared to the rest of the show, and I think it really, really works. So yeah, as a Marvel fan, I wasn't expecting Marvel to break from their usual norm and tell just this dramedy, and I think it does a really, really good job, and I think if you've been tired of like the same old superhero format, this might be worth your time if you're interested in seeing something new within the superhero genre. For me personally, I was not expecting this to be as relatable as it is. Some people know this, but my main goal is to also be a professional actor. And this show is insanely accurate to the self-tape process, the audition process, the filming process, the getting into character process. I felt very connected to Simon because I have done a lot of what he's done, like in analyzing a script and getting too much into my own head and watching my self-tapes and just feeling like I'm not good enough and just not being able to get into a role or a performance. And I actually felt so seen by that I actually had to stop for a little bit after episode 3 to just take a moment and collect my thoughts because it felt so honest and it felt so real. and I felt so seen that it was kind of nerve-wracking. And I really wish I had a show like this when I was younger, because it really showed me the reality of what being day-to-day of trying to break in looks like, and what to do when you don't book a role, and the troubles that can come when you feel like you're not enough. And I feel like had I had the show sooner, I really could have built the techniques or learned the lessons that I did over these last few years, but do it much sooner. I would have been so grateful for that. And I think if you want to go into acting, this is definitely a show to watch, because it really does a good job showing you, away from the glitz and glamour, what the business is like and what the reality is like. And I'm really glad that Marvel, of all studios, chose to do this kind of project, because everyone has watched their stuff, and a lot of people have been inspired by Marvel to do some things. And I'm glad that Marvel's being honest about, like, well, here's kind of the reality of following that dream. It's a beautiful dream, it's a wonderful dream, but it's not an easy dream to attain. So I'm very happy that a major studio said, hey, we're going to be completely honest with you. Yes, you can do it. Yes, it's possible. Yes, it's going to be difficult, and there's so much that comes of it. And I think it's so worth it to watch the show and to see a major studio be honest and say, this is our industry, and it's not easy, but you know what? It's worth it. So if you're looking to go into acting, this is definitely a show to watch. If you want to see something new with the superhero genre, definitely give this a look. And overall, if you're just a Marvel fan like I am, definitely worth the watch. This is a very, very good show with a lot of really, really excellent storytelling. And it's a phenomenal, phenomenal piece of work from Marvel. And for the start of the year, this was a very pleasant surprise. So let's see what else Marvel's got up their sleeves this year. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of Wonder Man down in the comments below, and we'll talk with you later. Take care.